What's up to everybody? It's gonna be a quick one. I think Dorian is starting to change the weather, but still got a clear shot tonight. 10:28 on the clock, South Florida. Per usual, the space trip. What's happening, people in the chats? My Spacians, Lost Brooklyn, Super Must See, Starlight, Corey, Abu Ives. What's up? Carolina Sky Astronomy, how's it going? All right, here's a little bit of Saturn. I'm just checking what the moon situation is. Looks like Titan, top right. And then to the right of Saturn, we got Tethys and Dione. And then to the left, that's Rhea. I don't see any other moons visible tonight. So let's check this out with the moons, and then I'll change the settings and we'll zoom in a little bit. on, everybody? Just hopping back in here. Added the 3X, but really the haze is pretty thick. Tough viewing. Hope everybody's feeling all right. Just gonna chill for a little bit on some Saturn. We'll head back over to Jupiter and maybe try for some stars at the end. Want to say what's up to Darren Moore. Welcome. everybody else joining. Happy birthday to VB. Awesome. And Cat C, welcome. Glad to bring you a little birthday Jupiter. And Saturn, of course. Pretty wobbly skies tonight, but this is close up. Maybe the Great Red Storm will show up. Could be nice. Please, if you're new, check out the description of the videos and the old playlists. There's a ton of old content, old good content, and links to various plasma channels. What's happening, Al Miranda? Welcome. And if you want to ask questions about the gear or the music or Electric Universe, happy to answer them. take it easy. Thanks for hanging out. Mondo Salas, let's hear you sing. I've heard you before. Get down, got down. I could. I'm pretty tired tonight, I'll be perfectly honest. Yesterday I was cooked. Did like a 3-hour show and then another 1.5-hour show. So my throat's pretty scratchy tonight. I'm not sure if you can hear it. So I'm just playing some tunes, talking to y'all. Towards the, I don't know, like full moon, next full moon, I'll be doing a live show with guitar and keyboards and stuff. So be sure to tune in then, please. So we got a little close-up of Jupiter here. Callisto hanging out off screen to the bottom right. Not too bad. I see you, Starlight. Yeah, just gonna go for a little bit longer. Peace, respect, truth smacking activist on the corner. What's happening? So I was talking a little bit yesterday, somebody brought up this great conjunction of 2020. And so if you have any program like Stellarium or Celestia or whatever star program, you can punch in the date or zoom ahead to that date next year, December 21st. And you'll see that there's this really interesting alignment of Saturn and Jupiter in the southeastern skies at around 8 p.m. Eastern. They're going to be within probably the same camera frame, which is just unbelievable. Maybe I'm wrong, Starlight. Let me check the moon, actually. Could be today. Sun, there's Mercury, there's the moon. Alright, so 0.5% going forward. Forward. Yeah, so right now the moon's at 0.2%. So pretty much right now is new moon. Still going, 0.1% in like a couple hours. So it's on its way to new right now. On its way to you. Hey Cat C, have a great night. I know it's Thursday night. It's kind of midweek still, but closing in on the weekend. Mondo Salas, hope to see you on a future stream when I can sing for you. I appreciate it. Cat C, have a good one. What's up, Justin? Yeah, so this is our new moon night. And then I think I'm going to try and capture maybe the 10% waxing crescent. We'll see if I have that view, but we'll see what happens with the storms. That's when I plan on starting the next round. Otherwise, yeah, so I was talking a little bit about the Great Conjunction next year. What's happening, Light Moon? See ya. What's up, Andonotis? Andonotis. Anyone seen Planet X? Have not seen Planet X, but if you're referring to Nibiru, then we're looking at it. Nibiru is an old name for Jupiter, like Cronus and Jove, or Cronus for Saturn, but Jove for Jupiter, and Zeus for Jupiter as well. Not sure there's a mysterious Planet X. And I appreciate your great comment, Mando. Yeah, so what's happening, Mark Rowe? Good to see ya. It's real chill tonight. I'm in a good mood. I'm just pretty tired, so that's what's going on with my voice. But let me tell you, so next year, I'm definitely going to stream it, of course, but December 21st is basically Jupiter, like we're seeing it right now. And if I zoomed out a little bit, you'd see Saturn in frame, which is kind of crazy. It's a 20-year event, so the last time it happened was May 31st, year 2000. Endonotus says, I've heard that about Jupiter being Nibiru. What about the Sumerian texts? Well, I think there are a lot of different competing stories, and some of them have different pieces of the truth. But it seems like when you look up kind of as far as when I research electric universe and plasma cosmology and Velikovsky and writings that have been put together, a lot more of them indicate that Jupiter was Nibiru. So that's kind of where I'm at. Sumerian texts may have been misinterpreted or maybe saying the same thing in a different way. Yeah. However, we don't know. There could have been an extra planet in our solar system, or different planets, or maybe asteroids or meteors that were much larger. So we're not, I don't know for sure personally. And we'll see if Shockwave shows up and he can discuss his thoughts on the Anunnaki. But I feel like the Anunnaki similarly is a misinterpreted archetype. So I feel like all the kind of mythological archetypes, the symbols that look like figures, tall figures that are attributed to ancient aliens, are really attributed to plasma discharge. And you can see the correlation. The stickman and all the different formations of the plasma can actually look like humans because it really is recursively human geometry. And so our bodies branch out just like plasma would. And so if you look up red sprites in Google Images, you'll see these kind of red, crazy, thick tendrils of lightning in our atmosphere, above our atmosphere. And this is within the shells of plasma. And you'll see that these plasma bolts look a lot like the ancient writings and drawings of aliens, or what people misinterpret today as aliens, are all formations that are happening naturally in the sky. Yeah, good vibrations, Light Moon, thank you. So perhaps the Anunnaki is just a reference to the humanization or the anthropomorphizing of plasma events in the sky. Any type of reference to an ancient god or chariot in the sky or boat in the cosmic space or the sea in the sky or the sea turning red, the great mountain of Tower of Babel. So many things correlate to plasma events when you really look at it, and it makes much more sense than made up stories that we can't prove. Or at least things that are not falsifiable. Like anybody could say, oh, this really evocative name, like Anunnaki, is, ancient god aliens that go on an ecliptic plane. We don't see them, till they arrive at Earth, and then they want to they want us to mine for gold. Like, really hard to prove that. And it's also really hard to argue that that's wrong, because maybe it's a situation that could occur. But I definitely think that if you take actual standard mythology and turn it into history, or reinterpret it, then I think our ancestors, at least of the last 10,000 years, or maybe 5,000 years, were leaving us not warnings, but writings and interpretations of what they saw in the skies. Makes so much more sense than alien animal hybrids, than UFOs, than all these things, that it's really more of a natural occurrence. Yeah, the pyramid stuff, anything with monolithic giant objects, if you look at it through plasma cosmology, you can apply things like charge, changing, interpretations of density and mass, charge changing gravity and density. Lots of different things start happening where physical parameters can be affected by electromagneto events and discharge. So if that's the case, then you have all sorts of high-level tech, essentially infinite technology. I guess that's not a word I want to use loosely. So you have access to a whole array of technologies from that vantage point. Within the current paradigm of science, things like UFOs are still spooky and evoke a kind of old world mysticism and superstition mentality versus, how to evolve and use science to our benefit. Mondo Salas says they're calling it Planet 9. So I think really there are so many objects in the solar system that people are unaware of, like Ceres, Ceres, and there are at least 10 to 20 Pluto-sized celestial dwarves in our solar system that are not accounted for, all of which have a magnetic charge and, different types of gravity, different orbits, their own little moons, and we don't hear about them almost at all. So I can assure you that at least those exist. So this idea that like Pluto is not a planet, or there are 9 or 7 or 10 or Planet X like iPhones, I don't think those types of rules apply. I feel like we as humans, or the powers that be as humans, arbitrarily label the universe the way they want, and if it doesn't fit, they just ignore it. So we have these ideas of these very perfect geometric systems, but the universe definitely has aberration and randomness and what they call basically plasma instability. It's in our blood, it's in the choices that we make, it's in the waves in the sky, in the charge from the solar wind. So instability is what makes life probably interesting and possible. Well, think about ancient history and what I was going to say about the monoliths or the megaliths or pyramids or dinosaurs, anything that needed to change mass. Basically what I'm saying is that maybe Earth was smaller. Yo, what's up everybody? Should be back on. Pretty typical OBS, just overloading, going to red, and then the stream cutting, but should be back. So I was just talking about how the fact that plasma cosmology opens up high-level technology. It's just like a video game, and it's logical that Sumerians and older cultures on Earth basically saw different skies. That's a lot of what it could be. It also could be that they saw the sky changing from what it used to be, and now we see something a little bit different. Could be that the size of Earth changed or gravity on Earth changed. So I used to jump immediately to the alien concepts, but I think it's more that the natural order of the universe or disorder of the universe is actually the culprit here. Give me a shout in the chat if you're live. Turned into a show where I ended up talking, but you know I can't keep quiet about plasma. It's in my blood. Oh damn, Mondo Salas pulls up some of that old stuff. Says, I remember when you tracked that spacecraft, that's the first video I ever watched. The one that came by Jupiter for like 10 minutes, that was crazy. It's been a while since I've captured any satellites. Mostly because like, it's hard to sit right next to the telescope. I have to just leave it on the staircase. And when I captured it last time, I had a lot more room to move the scope around. Satellites are fast, and once you track it, you have to just keep moving quickly, and you have to see the monitor at the same time. It's a lot of work. I love it. What's happening in NDRB? NDRB. What up, Gandhi? All right, I'm gonna head over to Saturn, take a look at, see what Kronos is up to. Yo, yo. What's going on, Ellie? Nice to see ya. Cactus Cat. The Cactus Cat. Love it. Hope you're doing well. Andy says, just wanted to say hi. Hey, hey. Yeah, the atmosphere, the atomos, is ultimately pretty rocky tonight. But we got our lovely Saturn, Kronos, the destroyer, the father that ate its children, our old home, or my old home, and Rick's old home. Let's get some more tunes up here. Yeah, I know that OBS, my broadcasting software, is a little bit glitchy. Sometimes it acts up during streams, so refresh and it should be back. So I was talking earlier about the Great Conjunction next year. So that's going to be really interesting. We'll see how long Earth lasts. But if it lasts till the end of next year, then we'll take a look at Jupiter and Saturn in the same frame. That'll be, I think, probably once in a lifetime, unless I make it another 20 years. 21 years, which is possible. Telescopes will have probably evolved somewhat by then. I also wonder what kind of influence that's going to what kind of influence it's going to have on Earthlings. And yeah, at the same time, I think there's Mars and Uranus and the Moon also in the same sky as Jupiter and Saturn. Not to mention, leading up to that, at I think August, and then again in November, you're gonna have the Moon and Jupiter really close, and Saturn to the left. So basically, Saturn, Jupiter, and the Moon really within 10 arc seconds of one another, I think. Something like that. Basically, a tiny portion of the sky, you can see all three of them before sunset. It's going to be an amazing year of scoping. Pretty stoked. See if everything stays chill. Starlight saying, I know this is off topic, but Cassiopeia is such a cool looking constellation. I concur. I would like to do way more deep sky imaging. Maybe I'll try this winter. I have a couple of cool tools. I got one of those Ioptron sky tracker mounts with the tripod. I haven't even used that once. That's supposed to basically take time lapse with my 4K camera. So that's going to be amazing, and I haven't used that once. And then I also have the 6-inch scope. That would be good for when Orion starts coming up a bit earlier, around 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning. That'll be some really excellent viewing. So I'm going to start wrapping it up and take it easy tonight. But I want to leave you all with a thought. I was mulling over today just about how the title of this video, large and small, everything connected. So I think it becomes a lot easier to really understand how we're all connected and how things are fractally recursive if you allow for what you know already. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen all the quantum videos and how tiny particles, quantum particles, interact with one another, essentially like little lightning bolts, like little sparks in between these particles. It doesn't matter really what you believe, it's just more the idea that this is how particles interact. And then a lot of you, I'm sure you have seen static electricity from the tip of your finger. And so as you go up in scale, we see thunderbolts from storm clouds, and you see ball lightning, and then you see red sprites, what I told you to Google earlier. If you check out red sprite images, and then if you go outside of Earth, you get to these things called Birkeland currents. And Birkeland currents are essentially pretty much everything we've just experienced, all the way from the tiniest particle to the largest scale of the universe in the magnitude. You essentially have these filamentary electric currents, and they telescope upwards and downwards in terms of how we as humans view them and view magnitude in terms of small and large. So there's an entirely simple way to visualize the connectedness of the universe. If you've ever seen Kirlian photography, where people put their hand on an electric plate and it emits a very low voltage, but it activates the filaments that are connected to the hand, and you see essentially what is like tiny little lightning bolts connected from every point on the body outwards into the ether around you, or the dark matter, whatever you call it. And then once you get to that point, you realize that each and every one of us and every particle inside us is connected directly to the cosmos through these filamentary currents. Now, the reason it's not like you can point at a star and get to it is because there are limits, fall-offs to influence. So each and every one of us, if you can imagine that all of space comes to a tiny point in your eye. So right now, all of space is coming to this, 2-inch or whatever, 1 1/4 inch lens at the back of the camera, and it's giving us this huge image of deep space in a tiny little area. And I think it's really taken for granted in terms of like how powerful the idea of optics and focus is in terms of comprehension, distance, consciousness, awareness. And so really, space is an interaction with energy. So you make the planets with your mind and your body, and the planets in return make us, is sort of what the point I'm trying to make is. What's up, Tom? What's up, Cognitive Dissonance? I was talking about the conjunction next year. I don't know if you just showed up, but I was talking about how I rechecked it after we were talking about it yesterday, and I thought it was, for some reason, it was four planets next to one another, but it's not. It's actually Saturn and Jupiter, which is still not pretty, it's, I was gonna say pretty amazing, but it's absolutely amazing that Saturn and Jupiter will be in the same frame, which is freaking crazy, and that's on December 21st of next year. But at the same time, Uranus and Mars will be high in the sky at the same time as Jupiter and Saturn, but they're not all very close together. The moon will also be up there at 47%, pretty much for first quarter. So that's just a bit of a clarification. It's still going to be amazing, but for some reason, I had seen like in a JPEG somewhere, an image somewhere of like Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and I don't know. I for some reason I thought they were all going to be close, but it's just Saturn and Jupiter. And I also mentioned that leading up to that, I saw a whole bunch of amazing conjunctions on the way there. So like there'll be a bunch of different nights where the moon and Jupiter will be very close and Saturn will be off to the left. Some where it's going to be like Saturn, Jupiter, and the moon in like really even spacing. Lots of really cool things. At the same time, Venus will be visible at a certain point. Mars will be visible again. M42 and Orion will start being visible way earlier. So 2020 is going to be really good for telescopy, astroscopy. And exactly says, yep, and Saturn crosses the Aquarian constellation, thereby ushering in the Aquarian age. That is actually true. It is true. The precession is very interesting, and speaking of that, check out the description of this video for See the Pattern and Electric Universe Eyes and a bunch of other great EU channels that talk about just that. I think it was See the Pattern that did the precession. He is the precession. But it could be Electric Universe Eyes as well. Hope y'all are doing well. Go another, 15 minutes or so. Finish up this cigarette. What's up, Moliwa B? Yes, on September 5th, 6th, and 7th for Jupiter and Saturn. Is that this year or next year? Cognitive says there's also a 326-mile wide asteroid called Vesta trailing Saturn's gravitational pull. I've definitely wanted to go after some of the comets, and especially Vesta as well, and Ceres, but it is really tough to scope from urban areas and get those types of objects, even though they're right there. I would love to see what Vesta looked like. Well, I think trigonometry also works because fundamentally the geometry of the universe is recursive throughout, from very small to very large. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for bringing me back to my point. So my whole thing tonight about everything connected. So it's not just filamentary lightning. These little lightning bolts essentially get smaller and larger in magnitude relative to our vision of them. So the point that I want to make really was that I feel like information and personality, and I think this is how it relates to astrology in a way, is that the same way geometry and fractals and spirals and spheres and rings and everything, the geometry we see in nature is mimicked. Basically, it's similar to the information that we have. So the words and the concepts and the ideas that we share with one another and the languages and the emotions are similarly fractal to the geometry. So if you could map out personalities in terms of shapes or colors, you'd see the same sort of patterns that we see in terms of electric dendritic filaments and lightning bolts and rivers, basically just like the branching snaking pattern, or not pattern, but shape, a wiggle. That's really what I think, is going on. So when people are like, how the hell did that concept come up? Or how does that person exist? Like, how does evil exist? How does good exist? I think it exists in the same way that triangles exist, and squares, and circles, and octagons, and dodecahedrons. All those things, all those shapes are also ideas and personalities. All right, that's my thought for the night. Just a small one, but recursive supersymmetry, not in the necessarily the quantum way, but just these shapes permeate all sorts of different, pretty much everything, from ideas and thoughts to gravitational fields and stars, heating patterns. I would bet that the way heat behaves and the way the periodic table unfolds is probably in a pattern akin to a spiral or a hexagon. It would make perfect sense that the geometry of the universe is equal to the data shape of the universe. A little bit of tunage. See if I can. So cognitive brings up a good point, but also something that I forgot to mention about that whole thing I just said, which is this idea of the pineal gland, or the mind within the mind, or the third eye, the fact that, or the bicameral mind, essentially the watcher. So I think that is actually more like the recursive mind. So it's likely that in our mind there's another mind, but in that there's a smaller mind, and in that there's a smaller mind, in terms of the way we perceive magnitude. But to that mind, at the tiniest cosmic scale, doesn't think of us the same way we think of us. So when you consider that if everything is shells of magnetic information, that we have spheres of influence to some degree. So there's a gradiated fall off of influence and perception of every particle, and humans are also a particle, if you want to look at it like that. And I think a particle could be also perceived as a point. So instead of thinking of it really as geometry, it's more like a bit of information, a dot. And I think that there's a misconception about shapes in the universe, because even a line or a shape is ultimately just a series, or at the minimum 2 points. So at the very, very smallest piece of everything is a point, it seems. So I think, so if we're points and inside us are points, then everything has a recursive mind that at its level of magnitude feels equally as powerful as we do at this magnitude. However, it's like the bugs on your leg or the table that you kill or that you let live don't have any concept of our internet and reality TV. but they do, and it's a completely different, it's the way we perceive space probably, as this giant thing that we could never know. I bet you a little ant runs by and it looks up and it's like at us, and it can't tell us from a human or space. So, fractal field, what is this, Michael Wise has it going, says a fractal field of flight information. Fleas have fleas. Damn. Exactly, fleas have fleas. Fleas have entire communities of people with their own reality TV and their own internet. And it's not beyond imagination, because if information is similarly fractal to physics, then you have these possibilities that the one mind, the conscious field, is just grows in different modalities. That's an amazing way to think about it at the very core, the very root. What's happening in Fast-Paced 33? I was just talking about some connectivity. Oh, right, and then this other idea of information in a person's life existing outside of the body, or the way we perceive the human body. So we carry around every piece of information that's ever happened to us in a shell, in ever expanding plasma magnetic shells around the body. And every day that we live, we grow new shells of information that record everything that we perceive. And so I think the idea of the brain being a receptor and the senses being receptors of the information that the human dot, the human bit of information emanates, that makes a lot more sense to this idea that information versus the idea of information being stored inside the brain physically, which doesn't really seem to be the case, but the concept that it exists outside the body is almost never talked about. And I think it makes way more sense that we actually are in touch with every memory and experience that we've ever had. Ellie Wynn says the bug I killed today, splat. I know, I just gave up on letting them live because it's going to drive me crazy. Essentially, every time I do the space show, these little bugs just start crawling over the screen because I leave the door open. And man, it's just brutal. What a life to lead. Running up and down an LCD. But see, recursively, we're doing the same thing that this little bug is doing, and ultimately it's going to get squashed. So everybody freaking out that we're getting squashed is, I think, has a choice in whether they want to just basically mope about it or party. And it's probably a little bit of both. The glorious end of it all. And it kind of takes you into this natural philosophy concept of the fact that really the universe, you know, starts off and it grows and it grows and it grows and it burns hotter and hotter and hotter, and then it burns out. And everything we see here on Earth follows that pattern, and it's glorious and beautiful in its decay and its rise, and it, you know, it's forever cyclical, at least in terms of what we see in this lifetime. So it looks like we will probably turn into some manifestation of energy after we're dead, and that's a great place to be, where it's close and understandable, and we don't have to freak out about it every day. Just play some good tunes and rejoice that somehow we get to exist in a tiny little period on this planet where we're in between ice ages. It's quite lucky at the very essence of it all. that somehow the human race that was grown on planet Earth like a little fungus gets to become self-aware and exist in a time where the Earth is not completely devastated by electrical impacts or electrical, yeah, see, the merger of the two, by electrical interactions in space. What's happening, Rick Dangerous? Rick Dangerously. I disagree. I don't think anybody famous or rich, like really, really rich, is lucky. I think they're actually more cursed than lucky. I think a moderately successful life is way more fun than anybody who becomes super, super rich or anybody who basically has it handed to them. Plus, how many stories have you heard of people not being able to escape celebrity? So, I don't know if he's lucky. Cognitive dissonance, you're putting together a mini doc. That's cool. Yeah, you can definitely reference stuff that I talk about here. And yeah, hit me up with an email if you got any questions. All right, let's head back to Jupiter for a little bit. This turned out to be a show, ultimately. I started off real tired, but now I got some energy talking about plasma. See, recursive. I talk, and the energy comes back. Yo, sorry, just got back. But yeah, you were asking about, let's see, Astro Backyard. Yep, definitely amazing photos. Who else? For me, it's kind of like I don't really. All right, there are a couple of like really amazing people who take space images. One of them is there's a chameleon observatory, I think in South Africa, that, maybe not South Africa, somewhere in Africa, I believe. And they take the most amazing pictures of the moon. Onjala, I think. I'm gonna look that up. And then in terms of planetary, I always go to Damien Peach. I'll put both these links. In terms of deep sky images, I typically will check on AAPOD and APOD, so Astrophoto of the Day, and then Amateur Astrophoto of the Day. And the channel that I follow is Astro Imaging Live, and those guys are really super keen and high-tech on deep sky, and they talk about everything. And all the guys who take the great shots have been on that show. So I'm going to find all these links for y'all, and I will drop them in momentarily. So Jove Zeus is setting right now, about to lose the view. So I think I'm going to switch to the wide shot, take one more shot of Saturn and call it a night. Close by midnight. That'll be good. Get some rest. But it's been fun, y'all, talking about the electric universe. Please check out the links in the description for curated channels. It sounded like channels. Channel reads. Yeah, electric sputtering in the laboratory. Astronomer Halton Arp regarding intrinsic redshift. Check out geological formations in the laboratory. Sky Scholar is Pierre-Marie Robitaille, talking about a liquid metallic sun with a crystal lattice. Check out See the Pattern and Chronos and the Electric View and Electric Universe Eyes, Greg J, Electro Terra Vision, Thunderbolts Project. And I watched Ben Davidson, Suspicious Observer's third part documentary where he says we're about to enter an ice age. And whether he's right or not, we should live each day the best we can and enjoy things if you want. Alright, check this out. I totally forgot to switch to this view, but that is, I want to say it's IO, which it is. IO on the left. Europa. And again, gonna switch to the wide shot. We got some Saturn coming up. So yeah, Milkometa, is probably not gonna happen anytime soon, but it is a very compelling story, so I understand why it's made its rounds, but I think it's time to put these crazy ideas to rest, because we can make much more sense out of the universe looking at it through this electric model. It's really very simple. Standard cosmology basically doesn't take into account electric fields in space, and therefore models are basically incomplete, and that's really as simple as one can put it. It takes a long time for paradigms to change, whether it's intentional or funding or willpower or just progress. If you want it to change, you gotta ask for it, but it's very simple. There is better information and simpler information, and you just gotta understand it to be able to articulate how to ask for it. All right, Saturn looking pretty good. And got some talk about Eyes Without a Face. I love that song, pretty great. Moni Moni. Yeah, Billy Idol, very good songwriter. Very, very good. What's happening in the chat room? Lots of messages. Okay. 12:01. It is Friday, August 30th. August is over, y'all. It's over. I wanted to play something fresh. Let's see if I can find it. All right, so this is just a little demo of something new, because y'all stuck through the whole show. Back here, playing a couple more minutes. Just want to say what's up to Shockwave. How's it going, pal? Nice to see ya. And what's up, Cognition Wings? And MLE Slaughter. It's an awesome name. Got Titan to the right, Rhea to the left, Tethys and Dione to the right, most stacked. A little bit of funk. So hopefully this weekend will be a little bit clear. Try and get some more planets and maybe some nebula. And just a quick reminder that everything is connected and electric through filaments at every scale. And it's the same, not just with physics and geometry, but probably information, thoughts, personalities, and everything that we see and think about is also fractally recursive in the electric universe. Check out the links in the description. And what else? I don't know. 7 days, the ISR rover is supposed to land on the moon, the Indian rover, and just starting to think about solar setups soon for the Mercury transit in November. And the weekend should be good unless Hurricane Dorian decides to make it a mess. And then just gonna chill inside and get some rest. That'll probably be a good sign. I'm gonna take it light, take it chill. So earlier I posted these links, but if you just showed up, this is what I want to get my moon pictures to look like at some point in my life. Of course, I don't know if it's going to happen in Florida, but if you check out this observatory, James Webb Telescope is finally 100% assembled. That's pretty exciting. It launches in 2021. So we still got a couple of years to go, but that is great news. The technology on that is outrageous. However, I've talked about it on the show a bunch that we already have unbelievable telescopes and so little data that actually comes from them. So I think you got to do it yourself if you want the good stuff. Like this shot of Saturn. Like, I'd never seen a shot like this of Saturn before I took it, which is crazy. So that's how it goes, though. Yo, what up, Cyclic Visuals? Just about winding down, bruh. Everyone is showing up a little bit late, but it's all good. I thought I was gonna do like an hour. It's already almost 2, but I love it. These views are for me and for you. And thanks to everybody for their nice comments and all the nice thumbs ups. So many thumbs, so little time. Yeah, it's gonna push a front through. Definitely gonna have lots of rain, but I feel like it might break or not. The power of the weather is something you have to just give into. I'm not gonna run. Yeah, you see in those shots, it's from a 14-inch Celestron with one of those Astro cams, like a proper cooled cam. I think an ASI, and they probably just ramp up year after year, getting like better and better, probably the 1600. But it's more that they're in a good sky, and they got an observatory and a 14-inch on a real proper mount. That's what it's about. You can see, like, I've done streams with the 11 that is just profound, and that's from a city, and with all the crap in the atmosphere, and from a little window, no less. So just imagine out in nature with a 14-inch and knowing what to do on the moon, and with a 4K cam. It's just astounding what's possible today. Duplicat saying 2024 NASA launching another mission to Saturn's moon Titan. This one will be a flying drone. Well, I hope it's a mission that has a camera that's recording footage on its way to Saturn so we can see what that looks like, because I think it would look amazing, especially with the shutter open. But I think it's probably too much to ask. Like, they're not going into space to take photos, right? It's not on your list. hint of sarcasm. But it doesn't seem to happen. We'll see with this what happens with the ISRO, if they really take images of the land, if they land, first of all, and second, what kind of images they take on the surface of the moon. Should be interesting. What up, Jello? More Jello. Man, everybody fun just showed up. I still got the view. I'll hang out a little bit longer and talk about some stuffs. Why not? But I'm gonna go get a drink first. I'll be back in a couple. I need to quench this thirst. Thirst for space. So much space. So, got some cold water in my blood, and I'm revived momentarily. Temporarily revived. So, right, the Chinese rovers, the Chang'e 3, the Jade Rabbit, those landed near Sinus Iridum, the Bay of Rainbows, one of my favorite places on the moon. But like I was saying, it's very high definition footage, but they're not actually taking pictures of anything. It's like a hillside, and it's kind of brown, and they took the picture of the rover and the lander of each other, but really nothing identifiable, no horizon shot, no shot looking back at Earth. I essentially, at this point, with every single space mission, I would literally keep the shutter open like at least a second or two, and I'd turn up the signal to noise or the ISO to at least like 1600 or 3200, and that was it. I would never take any other photo, because like we have every shot possible with a sterilized background. And what I mean by that is like all the photos of space where you see these objects in the foreground with almost no stars behind them. And it's just crazy to me that like we don't have footage going to Saturn with all the stars behind Saturn. Or this Indian rover, like, is it gonna land and take a picture with a completely black background above the horizon of the moon? I just wonder. Yeah, you know they got good data. No, of course, like I don't think that the data doesn't exist. I just feel that it doesn't really exist on YouTube or Google Images. And that's pretty much where all people get their information nowadays, even though I'm sure like half the people on planet Earth get it from a Chinese version of Google. But that's pretty much it. I don't think a lot of people are going to go to a library to check out the latest paradigms in physics or philosophy, or, I mean, to do your research, yes, but to move forward, I think you're just going to wait for the most contemporary articles to reach you, and then you're going to make a judgment. And really, it's just one of these things where it takes a lot of information to make good calls. Yeah, so what I mean, like, it's not so different than what we're looking at right here. So right here, I'm using an 8-inch telescope with an off-the-shelf Sony camera that costs $1,600. Scope costs like $1,200-1,300. So for under $3,000, you can see Saturn like this with little to no effort. And at the same time, I can also use like basic camera functionality to zoom into Saturn to see the moons, Titan, Rhea, Tethys, Dione, and probably others if it were clear skies. So why don't we have spacecraft that are in orbit, that are taking pictures of Saturn, like video of Saturn all the time, 24 hours a day, following, you know, an orbit around Earth, like Hubble basically, but just a CubeSat with a small telescope and a really high-def camera. Or, for example, why doesn't I'm asking these rhetorically, I know exactly why, because they don't want to do that, but there should be, is what I'm saying. Moon marketing, it's pretty funny. Ellie Wynn says, ever feel like they want us to be dumb? No comment. So I'll make a comment on it, which is, if you go into the philosophy and you start to realize, I'll tell you a little story about if you were the Godhead that made everything. So in your laboratory, you were a scientist and you essentially figured out how to create consciousness, and you could plug yourself into the consciousness. Actually, this is not really a good analogy. The point that I'm trying to make is that if you consider that you are making the universe just as the universe is making you, then so much is possible and so much is really connected. And then I think what I'm trying to say is there's this kind of sense that we are creating mysteries for ourselves to solve. So the universe is one big, or we are, as the universe, one large organism using peopling. Earth, it uses Earth to people, and once Earth peoples, we exist, and on our bodies, civilizations of tiny bacteria exist. So we're at one order of magnitude of the universe, experiencing it. And I don't know if there is a they. I think the they is us, or the Godhead mind, which will always hide from itself. It can never know itself. So people who say like they're trying to find themselves or become enlightened, it's almost like a fire that cannot burn itself, or a knife that cannot cut itself. because, you know, the Godhead cannot know itself. So I think they is us and we are them, and they're both evil and good, and probably so are we, and so is every organism in terms of how you look at it philosophically. But that was pretty long-winded. But I'll refine the way I say that over time. Ultimately, it could be a big conspiracy, or it could be the fact that the universe will always hide from you. As soon as you're about to uncover the mystery, it will turn into another mystery. Like the Large Hadron Collider will keep discovering smaller and smaller particles, and telescopes will continue to discover that the universe is larger and larger than they ever imagined. Every device that we use to measure will ultimately measure the most it can every day, every pattern of time. Duplicate's asking me if I've ever seen thermal or infrared images set up during a lunar eclipse to check for core heating of the moon. I want to say I have, but not for a few years probably. I also think, like, I can kind of imagine what that looks like. You don't get those filaments like you do during a solar eclipse, but you do get, I want to say circular radiation, elliptical radiation from the moon. So like a wave ripple from the center. But yeah, I should look that up again. I will. You know, the idea that at every level, everything is hell-bent on really destructiveness, and it's constantly pulling itself back and existing instead of fully being destroyed. And that seems to be the process by which this consciousness exists, and we as a product or byproduct of that. So ultimately, at every fractal level, we are connected, large to small, quantum to cosmic and galactic. I'm pretty pooped, y'all. I'm gonna take it easy and catch some snooze. This is your captain signing out. If you look on your screens, you'll see the beautiful Cronut drifting away. Take care, Cognitive. Take care, Bom Dia. Take care, Ellie and MLE. Take care, Duplicate and Cichlid Visuals and Morgello, and Michael Wise and Lost Brooklyn and Cognitive and 24/7 and a whole bunch of good people who showed up that I can't scroll up to. Let me know if I missed you. Look into Electric Universe. I got a ton of links in my playlists and the description of the video. And if you like the music, check out the Bandcamp page. That's how you can support the channel. But your attention is most appreciated. Have a good night, everybody. I'll catch y'all soon. Be kind, remember, because there's so much angst already.